Good morning, everyone. Today's lesson is going to be covering budgeting and saving, and our learning goals are to understand the terms budget, expenses, income, savings, and to create a realistic budget and track all our expenses. So before you begin this video, or before you continue with this video, I want you to look at all the definitions that are listed in your handout for lesson 3.2. And you're going to look up, using an online dictionary, look up the definition of some of these terms, okay? And write them down in your own words, because I want you to be able to explain that to me when I come back on Monday. So you should be able to identify what these terms mean in your own words, all right? Once you are done that, you can pause this video at this point, complete that activity, and then jump back into our lesson. So our first example here looks at creating an income and expenses sheet. You can do this on Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. Here we're just doing it by hand on a sheet of paper. Here's our example. After deductions, Sam earns $1,000 a week working as a miner. On top of this, he earns a bonus of $50 on average and receives an allowance for undertaking wet and dangerous work of $80. So I'm going to write this down. Since he's earning all of this money, it's going to go under income. In this case, he earns $1,000 in terms of his wage. He is also earning a bonus of $50. $50. And he receives an allowance for undertaking wet and dangerous work of $80. Okay? He also earns $30 a week on average from his share portfolio. I'm going to write this down, $30 a week. Now, something to take a note of is notice how all of these values here are per week. So if you think about it, this budget that we're creating here is a weekly budget, okay, or a weekly income expenses sheet that we're looking at. And if you have to think about this a little bit further, if I were to ask you to create a monthly expenses document, you would multiply each of these numbers by 4, because you're assuming there's 4 weeks in a month, okay? In terms of his expenses, he for rent he pays $1,733, so $1,733.33, but he earns this each month. So if I were to create a weekly budget here, I'm going to divide this number by 4, and that's going to give me $433.33. Okay, that's the only one that's per month from what I'm seeing here. Everything else there, let me just highlight that for you. Everything else on there is, I'm just going to assume it's weekly. So his he pays for his $20 phone and internet bill. That's $20. For electricity, he pays $15. For water, it's another $20. For food, he spends $100 on food. Car expenses are $80. His entertainment is about $40. And if you want to think about what kind of goes into the entertainment category, it would be things like your subscription for Netflix, Amazon Prime or Prime Video, any recreation activities that you're paying for, right? Any sports, a gym membership. I guess those would fall under recreation, but here we're specifically looking at entertainment, okay? Anyway, he is, the rest of his money is then goes under savings. Now, before I calculate what my savings are, so this is his weekly budget, I'm going to calculate the total of his expenses. So if you add up all of these numbers here, 433, 20, 15, 20, 100, 80, and 40, you should get $708.33, okay? That's the total amount of expenses in a week that he spends on. Now, what are his savings? If I were to look at his savings, I need to calculate that looking at his income. So if he's got a total, I'm going to figure out my total here as well. So his income, the total value for his income, if you add these up, you should get $1,160. Oops, sorry. Okay, so in order to determine what his savings is, I'm going to subtract the two values. So it's 1,160 minus $708.33, and that's going to give him a savings of $457.69. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. This is a weekly budget. Like I said earlier, if you were to look at a monthly budget, you would take all of these values and multiply by 4. If you were to look at a yearly budget, think about how many weeks are in a year. There's about 52 weeks we're looking at in a year. So you take all of these values and times that by 52. So our discussion on this is that by coming up with a budget here, Sam has another tool now to manage his money properly. This is a good way for you to make sure that he isn't spending beyond his means. This is something you guys need to do as well if you are finding a way to keep track of your expenses. A really good tool that actually exists out there, I don't know what bank you guys bank with, but TD has a TD My Spend account, so it keeps track of all of your expenses as you buy things, and it tells you, depending on the budget that you set for a month, it tells you when you're going over that budget or when you are under that budget or how much you're spending in each category. It's pretty neat. So when you guys start to get a job or you get a credit card, that is something to take advantage of. Take advantage of the apps and how they help you budget for your expenses. All right, our next section here, you are creating a pie chart to display all of your expenses. So here we're going to take all of the amounts spent in each category, right? I'm going to put in all of my numbers. So I have $4.33.33. I'm going to do this and I'm going to come back in a second. I have listed all of the amounts that I've spent in each category here. And in order to create a pie chart or to display your expenses, what Excel's going to do, or what you need to do actually before you even plug in all of these numbers onto Excel, because a pie chart or a circle graph is one whole, that one whole represents 100% of your values. So in order to determine what section each category takes up, or how much of your pie chart each category takes up, you want to look at the amount that you've spent and you want to see what that is as a percentage of the total. So here I have my total amount that I've spent, or total expenses that, who is this person? David? Sam. So the total amount that Sam has spent is $708.33. So in order for me to determine what percentage that is of the total, I'm going to divide it by $708.33. That's going to give me a decimal. And if you remember from before, you always want to divide by the total to get your decimal value. That's sort of the fraction that you're looking at. And then in order to turn that into a percentage, you want to times that number by 100. So this works just like your grades do, right? It's what you got out of a total, and then you want to times that by 100, and that gives you the percentage that you got on a test, right? It's the same idea. So we're going to do that for each of these categories. So 433.33 divided by 708.33 times 100 should give you 61.18%. Okay? You're going to do that for each of these. You want to divide that by 708.33, and that should give you 2.82%. I'm rounding these numbers up here. So once again, divide by 708.33. Now when I say rounding, I'm keeping at least 2 decimal places. It's always ideal to have a couple decimal places just because you get more accurate values when the more decimal places you keep in. 2 is normally the standard, so I'm going to leave it at that. And that's going to give me 2.82%. You guys are welcome to do this in your notebooks as I'm going through it. 100 divided by 708.33, because that's my total, times 100 in order to get a percentage should give you 14.12%. 80 divided by 708.33, again times 100, should give you 11.29%. For entertainment, again he's going to divide it by 708.33 and then times that number by 100, and that's going to give you 5.65%. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to look at all of these numbers here, okay? I'm going to take a look at all of these numbers here. Since it's a percentage and it goes into my pie chart, these numbers should add up to give you 100%. So if you check that, you will see that all of those numbers, when you add the percentages up, will give you 100%. Or in other words, if you had the decimal value there, all of those decimals should add up to give you one whole. So it would just be 1, okay? And that does check out. And then our last section here, we're looking at our savings. Our savings are 451.67. I'm going to divide that by 708.33 as well, times that by 100. And that gives me 63.76%. So if you take a look at this, about 63% or 64% of his income goes into savings, which is pretty neat. That's honestly really high. I don't, I mean, it's a great way to stay debt-free. I don't know how much that's possible anymore. But that's kind of around the 50%, or even anywhere 30 to 50% is the goal you want to have when you're trying to save your money, okay? How are we going to use Excel to create a pie chart? This I'm going to go over with you on Monday, just because I need to be there, and then I'm also going to show you how to do that on Excel. For the rest of the period, what you are going to do, you have a couple different things. One, I want you to research the stock that you'd like to pick for the $1,000 that we talked about yesterday. Be prepared to give me your top 3 choices by Monday. You are welcome to do this with a partner or by yourself. Try to stray away from the usual common Amazon, Google, Apple corporations. Give me something unique. Give me something edgy. Try to do your research on what stocks you really believe in, what companies you really believe in, and get me some names by Monday, okay? After you're done that, you are welcome to work on your 3.2 practice questions. I believe you have to complete numbers 1 to 11. So it's all of them on there. If there's any ones that require you to use Excel, I think this one here needs you to create a pie chart. Don't worry about creating a pie chart. Just do the amount spent and the percent of expenses that you can do, okay? We'll do the pie chart stuff on Monday when I return. All right? Have a good weekend, everyone. Oh, and don't forget to return your take your kids to work day forms. Hopefully you have that in. I will collect them on Monday as well.